Hi everyone and welcome to Facebook Live. This is truly SalSpeak because as you can see, it's only me speaking today. I'm flying solo. My partners in crime are off doing other things, and it's too bad because there's plenty to talk about, especially on One Bills Drive, where the Bills have been making news almost nonstop for the last 24 hours. Today on the show, what I want to do too is open this up to my Facebook Live viewers and ask some questions because this is a great opportunity for you to get on the show and we can talk about a few things Bills related for sure. But to start the show, I want to talk about obviously the decision to bring back Tyrod Taylor, which was the burning question for the last 2 months. What would the Bills do at quarterback? And now we have the answer. Tyrod Taylor will be back on a restructured deal that's a little bit more salary cap friendly for the Bills, but it's still going to pay him the money that he thought he was going to be getting on the original deal, or at least most of it. So that was the news that dominated yesterday. But as we go into today, we're only at lunch, and all kinds of things are happening with the Bills. We've got news that it looks like cornerback Stephon Gilmore is going to go try to win a ring with Tom Brady and the arch-rival, despicable New England Patriots. It appears that Bill Belichick is going to bring Gilmore in for a lot of money. Gilmore thought he could get that Josh Norman, Janoris Jenkins type of contract, and we haven't got the full details quite yet, but it looks like Stephon Gilmore might be in that $13 million per season range. Don't know what the length of the deal is, but it does look like Gilmore will join the Patriots. We've also heard that Robert Woods, wide receiver, is going to go back home to Los Angeles, where he played college ball at USC, the Rams. It appears a 5-year deal, $39 million for Robert Woods, which is really startling when you think about Woods is really a number 2 receiver, and for him to command that kind of contract, it just shows you how much of a passing league the NFL really is. So Robert Woods, good for him. He's going to go back again to where he's from, and that's probably going to be a real good fit for him. Also heard some news today that the Bills are considering bringing in kicker Stephen Hauschka, formerly of the Seahawks. As you know, they cut Dan Carpenter, one of 5 guys the other day who were cut for salary cap purposes, and there's rumors that Hauschka might come in at least to visit the Bills and perhaps sign here. I think this would be a great signing for Buffalo. Hauschka is one of the top kickers in the NFL, a really strong leg. The last 2 years at Seattle, he made 62 of 68 field goals. Now, he did struggle on extra points, which is so weird. He missed 10. Dan Carpenter, as we all know, missed 11 here in Buffalo, which is part of the reason why he's no longer here. So if they do bring in Hauschka, I think that's a clear upgrade over Dan Carpenter, so good for the Bills there. All right, what I want to do is share my thoughts on the Tyrod Taylor situation. I wrote a column yesterday. Hopefully you got a chance to read it in the Democrat and Chronicle, and there was really no choice for the Bills. We all knew that there really wasn't a plan B if Tyrod Taylor was allowed to walk out the door. The free agent market, as always, is filled with retreads and guys that really aren't ever going to be franchise quarterbacks. So you really would be taking, at the very least, a lateral move and probably going down a level if you let Taylor go and bring in whoever else was going to be out there. The only guys who would have been an upgrade, in my opinion, would have been Tony Romo and Jay Cutler, believe it or not. I know people don't agree with me on the Cutler take, but that's all the Bills could have done outside of if Taylor wasn't going to come back. So that's not going to happen, obviously. At the draft, the top 10 picks, we may see 2 of these quarterbacks get picked, Deshaun Kaiser, Deshaun Watson, and Mitch Trubisky. But I don't think the Bills would have been doing themselves any favors if they had used the number 10 overall pick on one of those guys. I think it would have been a bad idea. So the Tyrod Taylor decision really came down to what else could the Bills possibly do. And if they could get him to restructure the contract, which they have, then he's worth it, I think. I mean, he gave you, I thought, mediocre play for most of his 2 years as the starter. I don't think he'll be a guy who wins a championship here or anywhere else, but you can win games with Tyrod Taylor. You can be around a 500 team, and if Sean McDermott can fix this defense and get him some help in the wide receiver core, then I think you have a chance to go to the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor. So again, I've come from the dark side on Taylor, where at the end of the season, I thought the Bills should surely move on and figure out something else. That wasn't going to happen, and I really do think that he is the best option moving forward for the Bills. So what I want to do, because I know Tyrod is kind of the hot topic here. Let's look at some of the questions, although I'm surprised there's nothing on Tyrod Taylor, so we'll go right into it, and we'll answer a few of these questions. Brett Kramer has a good point here. Obi Melifonwu, and I hope I pronounced that right. He played at UConn last year. He had a great combine, and he wants to know if I think the Bills should pick him in the first or second round. I think wide receiver is the way to go in the first round for the Bills. Right now, they have nobody. Marquise Goodwin's gone to San Francisco. Robert Woods is now gone to the Rams. All that's left is Sammy Watkins, really, who can play. So the Bills have got to find some help. They've already, in the first 2 days of the legal tampering period of free agency, they've made no overtures that we're aware of to any of the free agent wide receivers. So it looks like they're either going to get a mid-tier guy later in free agency, or they're going to address this in the draft. And I think the first round would be a wise idea. Now, safety is also the big need on this team, especially with the news today that Aaron Williams was cut. I should have mentioned that at the top of the show. We just found out at noon today, Aaron Williams officially released. So the Bills have gaping hole at safety. So I think first round it's going to be safety or wide receiver. Obi Melifonwu from UConn was a dynamic player for 4 years for the Huskies, and he also had a great combine. He was freakish with his athleticism. He ran a great 40. Really, really fast, agile player. 6'4", 220 pounds, I believe. So to be able to move that fast, that's very impressive. He's a guy that I kind of had my eye on for the Bills, knowing their problems at safety. I don't think he's a first-round guy. I thought he would be a second-rounder. But after his combine performance, and who knows what will happen at his pro day, he may have bumped himself up into the bottom of that first round. So the Bills, if they don't take him at number 10, which might be a reach, they may not be able to get him in the second round, whatever, I forget what pick they have, but he may not last till their second pick. So yes, a very interesting player, though, that Brett brings up. All right, Benjamin Meisenzahl asks, how do the Bills address the needs in the secondary without Gilmore or Aaron Williams? As I just said, I think safety will definitely be an area they're going to go to in the draft. I also think cornerback would be a really good idea. Ginny just put a mug here because she knows I have a sore throat, and I'm already starting to lose it, so I'm going to take a sip of this. You probably can't stand my voice today, but I do have a sore throat. I think the Bills are definitely going to go DB in this draft somewhere. Safety for sure, and they will certainly pick a cornerback. I don't know that they would go in the second round, maybe the third round at cornerback, but that's how they're going to do it. I don't know what their salary cap situation is really still pretty tricky, even with releasing Aaron Williams. They've cleared, I think it's about, I want to say about $8 million in the moves they've made, but they've also signed Mike Tolbert, which cost them $1 million. The rumor is they're going to sign Patrick DeMarco, fullback, to a 4-year, $8 million contract. So there's a couple million in salary cap right there. So their situation is tenuous. I'm not sure they can go into the free agent market right now and get one of these high-priced corners or safeties. But I do think for sure they will address both areas in the draft. All right, let's see. With Woods gone and all that money, wow, that's what Ruthie Sturdivant Cunliffe says. I agree. I'm shocked that Robert Woods could command that kind of salary. I mean, he was a good player for the Bills, certainly not dynamic. He's not a deep threat in any way. He's a good possession receiver, but the Rams need help. That was a big problem area for them last year. They have Jared Goff as their quarterback. He needs all the help he can get. Robert Woods is a good, reliable receiver. I'm just not sure that $39 million, you're getting much bang for your buck with that, but the Rams apparently felt they're willing to do it. Keith Church agrees with me. Woods got overpaid. He did, but everyone gets overpaid in free agency. It's kind of crazy. Keith also says, please draft a wide receiver in the first round. Now, I wrote about this last week when I was at the Combine. I interviewed Mike Williams, did a story on him, the Clemson kid, who I think might be the best receiver in the draft, and I would not be surprised if the Bills pulled the trigger at number 10. But there are other guys in this draft class who are pretty good. One guy to keep an eye on who I loved at the Combine was Zay Jones out of East Carolina. Not a first-round guy, but he was considered a second to third-round guy, and he had a great Combine. Ran really well, was very impressive in the drills. This kid's the all-time leading pass catcher in college football. He caught 399 balls at East Carolina, 158 last season, an almost unheard of total. And the key to Jones is that his receivers coach, Phil McGeehan, is now the Bills' receivers coach. So there's a natural connection there, and Jones is the kind of guy who would look really good on the other side of Sammy Watkins. So keep an eye on Zay Jones in this draft. However, like I said, his Combine was so good, he might be on the radar of a bunch of teams. And if the Bills don't take him in the first round, he may not be in the second. He may not be there in the second round either. All right, Alan Askler asks, I like the move. He is a good starting quarterback. We're talking about Tyrod Taylor there. And like I said, Tyrod, I think, is who he is. I think he's reached his ceiling. The only hope we have here is that Sean McDermott's offensive staff can get more out of Taylor than Rex Ryan's staff did. We've seen for 2 years, we had Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator, and then Anthony Lynn took over 2 games into last season. David Lee was the quarterback's coach. I didn't see a whole lot of progress in Tyrod Taylor's passing game. Obviously, he's a great athlete, runs the ball all over the place, was a key guy in having the league's best running attack the last 2 years, but as a passer, he clearly has deficiencies. So hopefully the new staff can get more out of him. Rick Dennison was his quarterback's coach in Baltimore in 2014, and Dennison, as we know, when he went to the Broncos in 2015 as the offensive coordinator, Taylor was a free agent that year, and the Broncos were interested in bringing him in to be the backup to Peyton Manning. It didn't happen. He came to Buffalo. Now they're reunited here, so hopefully Rick Dennison can tap into something with Tyrod Taylor and improve his performance. If he does, that's going to be a very good thing for the Bills, because at a $10 million salary cap hit for its 2017, that's a pretty good bargain for quarterbacks. In fact, it's a great bargain if Taylor can play well. All right, let's see. Nothing much more on the comments right now, so I'll move on. Today the Bills lost Aaron Williams, their choice. This is a move that we all saw coming. Aaron has battled neck injuries the last 2 years. He's actually considered retirement in each of the last 2 off seasons. I had heard a report, though, that he is 100% healthy right now, and he's no longer thinking about retirement, but it just didn't fit for the Bills to bring him back at his salary. They're gonna, if he's a post-June 1 designation, the Bills will save $4.2 million on the salary cap. Now, the problem is if they do it post-June 1, that $4.2 million won't be available until June 1. Right now is when they need some salary cap relief. So if they just cut him right now as a cut today, they would save $1.7 million. So they haven't officially given us the word as to what they're going to do. All we know is Aaron Williams is now an ex-member of the Buffalo Bills. He had a nice career in Buffalo. It started slowly as a cornerback. He struggled, and the Bills moved him to safety in 2013. And he played really well for 2 years. And then the injuries, as we said, the neck injury, he missed 13 games in 2015 and then missed the last 9 last season. So it was unfortunate that his career kind of got short-circuited here in Buffalo. But if he wants to play football in 2017, there will be a team that's going to sign him to a contract. All right, let's go back to the questions here. Clayton Garrett wants to know about Corey Davis in the first round and Obi Malafanawa in the second round. Corey Davis is one of the wide receivers, an impressive player. I don't know that I would go that high with him in the first round. If I'm going to pick a receiver in the first round, I think Mike Williams is probably the best guy, at least on my board. I don't do a board, but if I did, I think Mike Williams would be the guy that I would look at. And again, I like Zay Jones. If they go safety in the first round, I would really hope and pray that the Bills would take a look at Zay Jones if he's there in the second round to address that position. All right, Brett Kramer wants to know, how about looking at Sidney Jones at 10 and OB in the second? A lot of talent at DB in this class. get a young core together that can play for a few years. Sidney Jones is a possibility. Again, I think 10 might be a bit too high for him. But with Stephon Gilmore gone, they clearly have a need at cornerback. So, again, they're probably going to go, if they don't go wide receiver, it's definitely going to be a DB in the first round. Whether it's a safety or a corner, I really couldn't tell you at this point. Jones is a very good player, no doubt about it. But they do need a corner because I don't know that Kevon Seymour in his second year is going to be ready to step in and play in place of Gilmore with Ronald Darby on the outside. All right. As far as the Bills go, I like what I'm seeing so far. Sean McDermott, the new head coach, has clearly come in. He has a plan, and it looks like he has kind of won a power struggle with Doug Whaley. It's pretty apparent to me that Sean McDermott is calling the shots over there. We all know at the end of the season, when they benched Tyrod Taylor in the last game, it looked like the Bills were going to move on. They did not want to pay him that $30.7 million that he was due on March 11th. The hierarchy, Doug Whaley, whoever else over there is calling the shots. We really don't know. I don't think it's Russ Brandon anymore. Jim Orvidorf is the cap guy. They were prepared to move on. Well, Sean McDermott comes in, gets the head coaching job, and it looks like he's got the ear of Terry Pegula. I wrote in my column yesterday that, there was a report last week that there might have been some a chasm is what it was called between McDermott and Whaley on the issue of Tyrod Taylor. Well, if there was, Tyrod's back. So McDermott won that tug of war. I like it. I don't trust Doug Whaley at all. I don't know why he still has a job in Buffalo. McDermott seems to be a take-charge guy. He seems to know what he wants. So I'm all for the move if this is what McDermott really felt was the right thing to do. For now, with no track record to judge him on, I trust him. I trust his opinion. The key for me is going to be what he does with the defense. Now that he has his quarterback in place, you're going to get some receivers, hopefully. The key for him is to retool the defense. He's a defensive guy, and that quarterback is going to need help. That was one of the problems that Tyrod Taylor faced in his first 2 years in Buffalo. The defense was never any good, and they didn't give the offense much help. So if they can get those two things going the right direction, the Bills will have a much better opportunity to be competitive in 2017. All right, back to the questions. Clayton Garrett. MCD is a Whaley guy that he hired. I don't think he would get the job if he wasn't on the same page as Whaley, MCD being McDermott. Well, yeah, Doug Whaley was certainly in charge of the search, and McDermott apparently was the best candidate, but McDermott also took the job with the caveat that he was going to have some say on the 53-man roster. If you recall, when they brought Rex Ryan in, there was a clear definition of duty. Rex was going to coach the 46 on Sunday, but Whaley was going to provide the 53. It looks like in this new arrangement, Sean McDermott is every bit involved with the full 53 and the construction of that roster, maybe more than Rex was. So yeah, Whaley is the guy who conducted the search, and he was in on the interviews, obviously, but I think Sean McDermott has won a bit of a power struggle here. I really don't think Tyrod Taylor would have been back. If Sean McDermott, if Doug Whaley had won the power struggle, I think Whaley wanted to move on and go in a new direction. Well, that didn't happen. McDermott got his way, and Taylor's going to be back at quarterback this year. All right, let's see. Ty Seaman wants to know, do you think McDermott is the answer? I can't answer that question. I have no clue. He's been on the job for less than 2 months, has not coached a game yet. I haven't even seen a practice. So I'm going to reserve judgment on Sean McDermott until probably after this season. Let's give him a year to build this team, get his systems in place, and let's see where the Bills go in 2017 before I have any opinion on whether Sean McDermott's the answer or not. All right, anything else here? No, we're caught up on the questions. So I think we'll move on from the Bills because my voice is really starting to go. I just want to offer a quick opinion on Syracuse basketball. Well, yesterday, right around the time the Tyrod Taylor news was breaking, SU was losing in the second round of the ACC tournament. Another bad loss. I know Miami is a decent team, probably at the same level as Syracuse, but that was a game that SU should have won. Miami's an opponent that Syracuse should beat. They beat them by 15 points early in the season, and now the Orange are out, and they're going to have to wait we've got 4 days left now before the selection committee picks the 68 teams for the NCAA tournament. A lot of people keep telling me that SU's in regardless. I don't know. If these conference tournaments get a bunch of upsets and these Cinderella teams get into the tournament, I would not say that Syracuse is a lock to make the field this year. We're in the same boat we were last year. They were in the same position. They lost in the second round of the tournament. They had a very similar record, and I think a lot of us felt that SU wouldn't get in last year. They did, and they go to the Final Four. This season, it's almost a carbon copy. I'll be very curious to see what happens come Sunday, what the committee is going to do with Syracuse. My hunch is that they will get in because they won 10 games in the regular season in the ACC, so I think the tournament loss will probably get pushed aside. They do have 3 wins against teams that were in the top 10 when they beat them, but overall, I just am not impressed by Syracuse's resume, and I would not be surprised at all if the Orange are left out of the big dance come Sunday afternoon. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sorry about my voice, but it's really starting to die here at the end, so I'm going to cut this off, and we're going to leave you. We'll be back next week on Thursday for another edition of SalSpeak. Maybe I'll have one of my partners with me who can take the stress off of my voice. But until then, I'll be on top of the Bills all day today and really all weekend. So follow me on DemocratandChronicle.com, and I'll keep you informed on what's happening. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.